All right, so we're going to start first with Schell, who is founder of Schell Games.
All right. Yeah, hi there. So Schell Games is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We have about, we're at about 108 people right now. We produce a mixture of entertainment games and educational and transformational games, roughly about a 50-50 mix at the moment. Presently, we're doing an awful lot in the realm of virtual reality and augmented reality games. You can see here's a mix of some of the games that we've recently developed up there. And I was going to show you clips of some of the recent educational transformational games that we've done here. First one I'll show you is Water Bears VR. This was something that was originally created with a MacArthur grant to create a game to aid a systems thinking curriculum. It started out as an iPad game, but then we brought it over to virtual reality. So this is a puzzle-oriented game that is all about connecting pipes together in order to get water to the little water bear. So it's a mixture of systems thinking in terms of connecting pipes as well as color mixing. And these two things together end up making a pretty, we find a pretty entertaining mix. And the ability to do everything spatially, to actually work with your hands around something that seems very real, is something that we felt like that's worked out pretty well. Another one that we've worked on is Happy Atoms. This is a augmented reality chemistry modeling system that we put together.
Build, scan, and discover the world of molecules with Happy Atoms, the revolutionary chemistry learning tool. The physical and digital chemistry modeling set lets you learn about atoms and molecules in an intuitive, hands-on way. The complete set contains 50 atom models representing 16 elements. The atoms connect easily with magnets to form molecules. Then, use the Happy Atoms app on your tablet or smartphone to scan your molecules. The state-of-the-art image recognition technology identifies the molecules that you build and provides detailed information about them. The free app invites you to explore the world of molecules in a fun and engaging way. Follow rookie chemists Harper and Andy on guided quests to discover new molecules and track your progress along the way. A 16-page quick start guide and experiment manual provides an overview of the app and hands-on experiments to get you started. These are the building blocks of the universe. Let's build it with Happy Atoms. Ages 10 and up. From Thames and Cosmos and Schell Games.
So what we found out works really well with this is the fact that it is a physical toy that is accompanied by an AR app. Right now there's lots of augmented reality apps that are just kind of, you're just kind of pointing at empty space, and sometimes there could be some benefit of that, but we're really feeling like the real benefit of augmented reality is going to be from having physical objects that are augmented and improved by the virtual way that you're looking at it. And then the last thing I'll show you is our Super Chem VR project. This is our virtual reality chemistry laboratory.
Hello, and welcome to the lab.
Super Chem VR is a proof-of-concept, immersive virtual reality chemistry lab. It was developed for commercially available virtual reality systems that include headsets and hand controllers, like the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift. You need to perform actual measurements correctly to complete the task, which also gives you practice with lab skills. You can explore and learn safely without being intimidated by a real-life lab where things can break and resources run out.
Please be careful.
And because it's virtual reality, you remain safe, have access to all of the resources you need, and can try again.
So one of the things that's sort of unique about SuperChem is that it is something that we're creating for schools, but we're also creating a home version that's very much designed to be an entertainment adventure game. We're finding more and more that it can be very difficult to sell directly into schools and have that be a sustainable business, but to mix that with something that people would actually pay money for entertainment purposes seems to be a nice way to kind of fold these two things together. Thanks very much.
All right, hey everyone, I'm Javornik from Filament Games. I get to go to a lot of different conferences during the year, and this is actually my favorite one because it's the one conference where it's not, oh, they're over there with the few game companies here. It's actually a conference of our peers, which I love. So if you haven't met me before, I'd love to connect. You can find me on Twitter, or you can just find me in the halls. I'm one of those people who is non-intimidating and loves to meet new people. So actually today what I'm going to do is talk to you actually a little bit about Filament, kind of give you the update of what we've been up to for the last year, some of the opportunities we've been presented, some of the challenges we face, and then briefly touch on kind of an industry outlook. So Filament has two sides of our businesses, main sides. One of them is Filament Games, where we're a work-for-hire studio. So we make games for organizations all over the world. We make games for 2-year-olds all the way to senior citizens. We make games for any content area, and actually at this point, any device, including custom hardware devices. It's a great side of our business. We actually get to wrangle with problems that we otherwise wouldn't actually have the opportunity to think about. It keeps our skills really sharp, and from a technology perspective, it allows us to explore a lot of different things. The other side of our business is called Filament Learning, and that's the publishing side of our business. So Filament's been around for 12 years, and for the last 3 or 4 we've been really focusing on bringing high-quality learning games directly to schools and districts. So we now, this year, are up to a library of 17 immersive games for K-12, covers content area in ELA, math, and science. We sell directly to schools and districts. We also license the library to other companies who want to have our games included in their software. And then lastly, we also distribute through various partners. So this has been our main business model for many years, and we kind of continue to see the synergies and the advantages of having both sides. This past year, there's actually been a kind of an evolution or growth of our business model. And I put a question mark there because we're still trying to figure out kind of what it's going to emerge to. There's been an opportunity, obviously, with all the VR hardware that's been released, that as hardware providers, they won't have any success selling their apparatus if they don't have content. And I would say all of the manufacturers are very interested in VR for education. I will say my take is that not all of them know exactly where to place their bets at this point. I don't feel like all hardware manufacturers know where the market's going to be, but we've had the opportunity to partner with some of them to start developing immersive VR content so that it can be released to the education market. This is actually some video of a VR experience that we built under a Phase 1 SBIR for the NSF. The property is called Robo Engineers. You can go play it up in the arcade. This video actually was a very proud moment because once we built it, then everyone started having like filament mega robotics competitions within the studio. So this was the day where one of our engineers figured out how to make an apparatus that could jump. I think of opportunities this year. I tried to think about what was unique about this year for Filament, and I came down to 3 separate things. First, obviously, is the amount of VR and AR work that we've done this year, both on the work for hire and then on the publishing side. We've been able to work with really entry-level VR type apparatus, like a Google Cardboard-ish type experience that actually is going to be sold commercially at Costco's through the fall for the Christmas season. We've also had the opportunity to work with kind of high-end VR equipment, so that's been super cool. Everyone's so psyched about what VR can do for learning. The other year, this is not new to the industry, but kind of new to Filament, we had the opportunity to work with a few custom hardware device type manufacturers. So we were able to do the digital component. This is one of the partners we worked with, Square Panda. They're doing great things for early literacy. And then last year, I think the last thing I wanted to mention, which was kind of an aha moment for us, is we feel like this is the year that we've actually started to prove a theory we had, that for a publishing business to succeed, we had to move from having a few titles where the sales conversation was more about, does this teacher like this piece of content and the way that the content is being presented, to more, does your district or school want to adopt game-based learning as a pedagogy, as a tool that you want to provide for your teachers, and a lot of different teachers. So we are not at thousands, we are at 17, but we actually have found indicators that our theory is indeed true, and this year we're super focused on trying to double, if not triple, the size that we've been acquiring, both through our own content that we've released, and we're also curating third-party games from other developers that we hold in high esteem. In terms of the challenges this year, there were many, but I'm going to focus on one. Technology. Remember this guy? Technology is so hard, especially when you're dealing with schools. Like, we still are not over the great Flash to X migration, both in work for hire and for publishing. It's just WebGL is promising and mostly the solution we're recommending, but it's still not functionally working in all places for all things. VR is confusing. No one, there's kind of lower end equipment, higher end equipment, and where's that going to be? So trying to kind of not only recommend things to our potential clients, but actually ourselves, where to make our bets, especially as we harvest third-party content. Every developer has developed in something different. So if we really want this idea of the Netflix of educational games, it's going to still take a lot of time, work, and energy to kind of get everything onto a platform that works together. I think lastly, I'll just touch on this for industry outlook. If you were at Serious Play, you saw that the annual report was released, which I love, and gave you a 5-year projection. I thought what was interesting this year is that they really noted that very high growth noted in both tertiary education and preschool. And that actually reflects what we're seeing at Filament in terms of inquiry for work. It also, if you follow the ed tech market and kind of investment, is where we saw some really big investments this year, different demographics. So we've kind of taken note of it, and we'll continue to follow that trend. So that's it.
Thank you. Next is Shelley Kaufield, who will be talking about a new emerging company in this sector, Triseum.
Hi, I'm Shelley Kaufield. I work for Triseum. I'm the creative director there. And I thought I would let what we've been doing for the past, 3 years technically, but a year and a half of real heavy development speak for itself.
To understand art, you must understand artists. To understand artists, you must understand where they came from. Welcome to a whole new way of exploring art history. An immersive experience that takes students straight to the heart of 15th and 16th century Florence. An image of an artwork can only show you the artist's work. But a game can show you the artist's world. As a member of the Medici, you are more than a wealthy banker. You are Mecenas de las Artes, a patron of the arts. What matters is not just the money you make, but your civic reputation and your standing with influential bishops and clergymen. To play as a patron of the arts is to understand where Renaissance art came from. This is Arte Mecenas, a revolutionary new way to teach art history. In the classroom, students hear and see the artworks and their history. In the game, students discover what it was like to be a patron of the arts and explore the context behind the artists. Successful learning is reported to their teacher, offering an alternative means of earning class credits. Playing to learn, a completely new approach to teaching art history. Welcome to the Renaissance. Welcome to Arte Mecenas.
I've got one more for you.
From engineering to medicine to 3D graphics, calculus is foundational for all STEM careers. However, calculus courses today have among the highest failure rates of any course on any campus, and there is a growing body of evidence that explicitly ties calculus to attrition in STEM degrees. At Triseum, our team collaborates with educators to address these complex educational issues and transform how students learn. Welcome to Variant Limits, the first in a new series of immersive educational experiences for calculus students. Variant Limits brings calculus to life by transforming abstract ideas into creative and visually engaging challenges. As an explorer on a planet governed by calculus principles, students will discover a vibrant 3D world. Throughout the world, students will overcome obstacles by applying skills and concepts learned in class. Students will gain a new perspective on difficult topics such as limit laws, continuity, and the intermediate value theorem, and use their experiences within the game to construct and retain calculus knowledge. Variant Limits promotes conceptual understanding through direct interaction and immediate feedback in the game environment. By providing students an opportunity to take a more active role in the learning process, Variant engages and motivates students like no other learning tool. As students advance, learning is reported via the instructor portal, which provides detailed information and tracking tools. A revolutionary new way to teach calculus, an innovative tool to empower and engage students. The first in a series that will transform the calculus experience. Play to learn with Variant Limits.
Thank you, Shelley. All right, and now for something a little different. Manolo Diaz is going to be talking about Yogome, a new platform for early learners.
Hello, everybody. My name is Manolo Diaz, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Yogome. I don't have videos, but we are at the marketplace, so you can go there and try our games. We have cool stickers and plush toys, so help yourself. So Yogome, we're a company of over 60 team members with offices in San Francisco and Mexico City and my hometown, San Luis Potosí. Yogome is the learning games platform where kids are the heroes who save the world with the power of their knowledge by fighting evil Queen Ignorantia. We believe there is a bright future for all children. That's why we have to make sure that our content is as educational as we can, so parents are excited about it, and of course, entertaining, so kids are also engaged. We can convince parents that there's value in the content, but if we don't actually engage kids, parents will not see a reason to pay for the product, and that's important because at the end, that's our business model. We go directly with the consumers to make sure that we can turn iPad time into productive time. We use common elements in other popular games for kids, like Candy Crush or Plants vs. Zombies, so kids, they already know these concepts, so when they see these concepts in our games, they already know what to do. So that's really important to make sure that we give them the best learning experience. So in our platform, we cover 8 different subjects from math, science, geography. It is already available in 4 different languages. We're also working English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Japanese. Chinese, sorry. We're working to have it ready for Korean and Japanese as well, and is cross-platform and also available for the desktop. Our goal is to create a child-centered solution. So it's not only for kids. We're also involving teachers and parents as well. So we're setting the gold standard for game-based learning. That's why we partnered with the Play to Prevent lab at Yale University. We want to make sure that our educational content is not only educational because we say so, but because we're partnering with a top university to make sure that we are measuring the impact of our games in kids, in this case, first grade and math. And we are happy to announce that, in fact, our games make a positive impact when kids use the games. So that's important for us, and we want to continue building the product that way. As I was telling you, our business model is simple. We use a subscription model. Parents can pay either monthly or yearly to have unlimited access to the curriculum, and it's cross-platform, as I was mentioning, so they can download the app on an iPad device and then go and play on an Android device. It is really family-friendly. So we're a global company with clients in over 50 countries. Every day, thousands of families turn iPad time with Yogome into productive time. We have to make sure that we are innovating in this space. We have seen VR and other important elements, so that's why we are building tools like the Learning Games Creator, for example, to make sure that we invite all teachers to create content by using the Yogome characters, the Yogome storyline, so they can create their own content. Now that we have this content, we're also making sure that we take these games, for example, with global initiatives like KioKit, into low-income communities, in this case, Mexico and Latin America. We need to make sure that we are encouraging diversity as well in our products, so that's really important for us. With different local events in Mexico and Latin America as well, we are encouraging entrepreneurship with Yogome Hacker Kits, and we're also, in the case of Latin America, creating models where we can connect with more developers, edu-game developers, to help them take their content into millions of users. So that's Yogome. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Manolo. Okay, Devin, I think you're up next. Little musical chairs here. Devin Young is co-founder of Classcraft, an altogether different kind of game company.
Hi, my name is Devin. I'm the president and co-founder of Classcraft. I run the company with my brother. This is basically us in school. It was terrible. So I got picked on a lot. Sean was really smart and bored out of his mind, and we are basically making school look like what you have on the right. So we're taking game mechanics and applying them to middle school and high school predominantly, and thinking about the experience of going to school and what it could look like if it was a game. So this is what we're basically solving for. Gallup pooled over 1 million students in 2015, and this is what engagement looks like in the classroom. So you can kind of see that in 5th grade, you're coming out of middle school, you're still into the idea of being there. And then progressively, as you get into high school, there's a pretty solid drop. And the implications for society are actually pretty important, right? If less and less people are excited to be in school, then what does that mean for their career prospects and just what kind of citizens are they going to be in the world? So really what we're doing is looking at how play can impact that. So we are designed as human beings to learn through play. And this is basically where we're coming from, a typical worksheet, right? And this is where engagement is happening. So in terms of massive platforms and experiences that are really interactive and engaging, this is where kids are spending their time. So from there, we've built a platform that gamifies the experience of going to school. And it really structures it so that students are in teams, and it's built to foster collaboration. So what that means is that as you would show up to class, you would have an avatar in all of your classes. You gain experience points as you do positive things, so handing in homework or being nice to someone. And as you level up, you basically unlock powers. So you get to eat in class or hand in homework late or ask questions on exams. So the teacher will customize those. You can lose HP as well if you do negative things. You can actually fall in battle, which is the equivalent of dying in a game, and you get a negative consequence. And then you're in teams, and your teammates can actually heal you and protect you. And so there's this whole sort of architecture where students are having hero moments for one another and coming to each other's rescue. And so on top of that framework, you can do a lot of things. So we've built a suite of tools that allow a teacher to gamify the experience in their classroom. So that might be having a volume meter or a boss battle at the end of the week to do formative review where the whole class is trying to overcome a common enemy. Essentially, it's a toolkit for teachers to gamify their classroom. And so what I wanted to do is just show you a quick video of what that looks like. So we've got teachers that are in class, say in middle school. This is a boss battle, so they're basically different teams are answering questions, and they're trying to see as a class, can they overcome this boss at the end of the week with what they've learned. And then you'll teach the way that you normally do, but you'll have a teacher kind of going around, and Classcraft's really like a wrapper around their existing classroom. So sometimes they're just doing exercises, and the teacher will come by and give points based on how people are interacting in the classroom. Those points unlock avatars and let them do all kinds of special things. They would manage a group setting and then be able to do question and answers and that kind of stuff. And then we've had some schools that have gone really far with the idea. Turned their school into Hogwarts, and they have dance competitions in the gym. And so in terms of the framework, when you get teachers that are really motivated, then there's a whole framework in place to really create school culture and to get kids really excited about being in school, which is really what we're working really hard to do. And so, so that's basically Classcraft. We are at 2.5 million users. We're in over 20,000 schools in the US. We're in 75 countries. We're in 10 languages. Back to school started officially today. So that's probably going to ramp up in the next couple months. And then what I thought would be cool to share is just what's next for us. So this is what we're building for the next couple years. The classroom basically looks like there's a bunch of learning management systems on the bottom. So those are the Googles and the Microsofts and the what have yous. And we're integrating with their APIs as aggressively as we can to gamify those experiences. So when you hand in homework in Google Classroom, you now get points in Classcraft. And then we're in the process of building out an API. So the people at the top would be our dream partners, and there's probably more than that. But the idea is that if you were in New Zealand and you finished a quiz, that would drive points back to Classcraft, right? So really partnering with all the people in the K-12 education space and looking at how can we come together and really create experiences for our kids that get them really excited to be there. And the other big piece is that we're working on taking lesson plans and putting them on adventure maps starting in a few weeks. And so really kind of gamifying curriculum and looking at how that can be more compelling, where really exercises can be couched within narrative, right? Like tonight's homework, you get on this island and this thing happened. And by the way, here's some assignment that kind of pertains or maybe relates to what you're doing. And so over time, it's going to have self-correcting quizzes. It's going to start differentiating. It's going to be self-paced for students to be able to sort of get into this. And then on top of it, once we have those integrations with partners, we can start dropping in some of your games in there. So really trying to help the actual market that we're all in really make games and education viable. I think that we're all working every day to really get that point across. And I think it's really important to find a way to kind of come together and make a statement and show that it's real. It's as powerful, if not more powerful, than a textbook. And so we should be able to sell games and make that really viable for the students that we serve. So that's it. That's me. That's my avatar.
Thank you, Devin. All right. Last, let's call Michael Angst to the stage. He is co-founder and CEO of Eline Media.
So can you hear me if I'm over here? Yes? Okay. I'm not going to do slides, so I want to walk around a little bit. So I'm a veteran for Games and Change. I've lost count. I've either been here 8 years or 9 years and been invited to present a few times. Some of you know my partner, Alan Gershenfeld. We run a developer and publisher called Eline Media. We're a for-profit, mission-based company that believes that games have the power to help us understand and shape our world. So I'm going to unpack that a little bit for you, and that's kind of our story. So first, my partners, Alan was one of them, ran studios at Activision for a number of years. Another one of my partners ran them in the 2000s. Alan ran them in the 90s. And they both believed that there was an opportunity for games to speak to the human condition, for games to catalyze curiosity, much the way that amazing documentaries do, or that powerful films about critical issues made by folks like Participant do. And we really set up the company to explore that. Through our journey, we've made products that were specifically designed for use in K-12 schools. There's a product upstairs that you can see that's been out for a long time that was made with Institute of Play called GameStar Mechanic, which helps kids make their own games and learn design thinking. We've taken very, very effective consumer games and tried to find ways to reinvent them and their experience in the classroom. We helped accelerate the work of teacher gaming around Minecraft EDU and made an investment and partnered with them to try to help bring that to scale in schools before that was purchased by Microsoft. And then most recently, we've asked the question of whether we can bring underrepresented voices, new voices, into the medium by making games around people and culture and the things that we face and the issues of identity. And the first game that we made in what we hope to be a series is a game called Never Alone, which we developed through a collaboration with an Alaska Native organization, was released at the end of 2014, beginning of 2015. Since I don't have the visual aid, think little white Arctic fox and cute little girl who go on a journey to find an endless blizzard. The game was made over a period of 2 years. It was released on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC at the end of 2014. And honestly, when we made it together, we felt very seriously that there was a risk that no one would care. In fact, we tried to talk them out of funding it from the first day, and really said that it's so hard as an independent game maker to rise above the noise, to try to make something that brings diversity to the space. By the time we had launched the game, it had been covered in over 500 feature articles. It had been covered on television. It had been covered internationally. And for some reason, it just really struck a nerve. I think it was something about an organization and a culture that has so little opportunity to have a voice in the medium, being bold enough to say, I'm going to invest millions of dollars. I'm going to work with top folks from the game industry. I'm going to release the game in my language. It's actually narrated in Inupiat. I'm not going to try to change the way my stories are. They don't fit a 3-act structure. That's okay. I'm going to put them out there the way they've been told orally in my culture for thousands of years. And it turns out that people cared. And in fact, we've crossed 3 million players as a game. We had the financial support from the revenue to bring it to many other platforms, Wii U, PS3, and now mobile. And each time that we did, we found that the app stores, the folks who control distribution, to be just unbelievably supportive of something that was trying to bring a new perspective. It was an amazing journey, and we're really psyched that we did it. We're even much more psyched that in the process of doing that, we've now met honestly dozens of organizations who say, we want to make games about people and planet. We want to make games at this scale. We want to make them for console and PC and mobile. We don't want to dumb them down. We want them to be bold. And so since launching Never Alone, we now have a pipeline of probably up to 10 games we're making 4 right now that will explore additional issues of culture. They'll explore the planet and the natural beauty of our world and how to sustain it. They'll go at difficult and hard-hitting issues of community and violence. And we hope that we can sustain the brand values that we created with our partners from Never Alone, and hopefully bring you things that can help you understand and shape your world. So that's us. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Mike, I'm going to have you sit here, okay? Yeah, come up. Okay. Well, great. Well, thank you all for sharing your stories and some highlights about your different companies. I'd like now to talk a little bit about some of your origins. And I know some of the companies have been around for 10, 12, 15 years, and some of them are newer companies. But I want to hear from Jesse to start, because I thought it was really remarkable how so many of your the videos were VR, right? And that, for many ways, comes full circle from how you started your career. And I'd like you to just talk a few minutes about the journey. And would you have expected to be here now? And how have you managed to sustain a company over the time of period that you've been operating to be where you are today?
Yeah, so I started in VR in the early 90s in graduate school when it was sort of newish. And then I went on to Disney, where I started working at the Disney Virtual Reality Studio. We developed this thing called Disney Quest. And people ask me, do you think it's safe for children to use VR? And I say, well, children have been going in the Aladdin's Magic Carpet VR experience at the Disney World for 19 years, and so far it's okay. So that stuff's been around for a while. And then I went to Carnegie Mellon, where I started teaching VR classes. And so I started Schell Games about 15 years ago. And so when VR started to come into the marketplace a few years ago, we got pretty excited and started to try and take advantage of that opportunity. So it's an exciting time.
So for a 15-year-old company, if I recall, sort of talking a little bit about funding models. You've created a self-sustaining business. You are a for-profit company. But where do you get your funding from?
Right. So we're a for-profit company, and we haven't taken any investments. So we've been completely bootstrapped. So our model is very much that we do work-for-hire projects, try and make them successful, try and make them a little bit profitable, and take those profits and put them into our own IP. We like doing a mixture of both of these things, and so that's gone very well. And so we started with just 5 people, and over a period of about 15 years, we've gotten to where we are now, about 108 people.
108.
Yep.
And how much of your projects do you balance between the entertainment side and the for impact side?
Presently, it's about 50-50 entertainment. We started out as a kind of an all-entertainment company, and we were like that for about 7 years, and then we started seeing these opportunities for educational and transformational games started to appear. We thought that was something we really wanted to try, and it went very well. So for the last 8 years or so, we've been kind of having a balance of both. And we've been finding that works well for us because I think the entertainment products that we create gives credibility to our ability to make educational things actually fun. And related, we tend to lean towards the cutting edge. We find it's a good differentiator for us, and it brings us a lot of good client work. And that by being out there with entertainment product first, education is always lags a little bit behind entertainment when it comes to new media. By getting our chops up on entertainment, we're able to be ready when when education is ready to enter the new media.
What I also think is interesting for a couple of you out there, now all of you are for-profit companies, right? You're all for-profit, obviously with some kind of double bottom line when you are interested in having impact. And we'll talk a little about the different funding opportunities, but specifically for Eline and for, as far as I'm aware, Eline, Filament, and Shell, you all tap into some government agency, right? Some grants and foundation money. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit about that experience to this crowd, because that's not always, a likely source for funding that someone might consider. Jennifer, do you want to start?
Yeah, so we've had the opportunity to, we've applied and been successful at obtaining some SBIRs, or Small Business Innovation Research grants. And the great thing about these grants is they're interested in exactly what the title says. They're interested in funding small businesses who are really interested in innovating and then doing research about that. So what's great about the SBIR funding is that it gives you, you can sell an idea that's future facing for education or for science or how we teach, which is great. The second part of the phase is also the commercialization, which is challenging because here you went and invested in this super innovative thing like you were told to do, and then you are asked to commercialize it in kind of whatever that day's environment. So I think it gives you a lot of license, but at the same time, there's also, you're stepping into something much larger once you go to the phase 2 of taking it through commercialization.
So you have a diverse approach to funding. So you have the grants through SBIR,
Yep.
you do work for hire, and are you developing your own IP as well?
Yep, so similar to Shell, that we invest the profits we earn from work for hires into our own IP. We have a little bit more now that we're also curating third-party games into our library and selling directly to schools. So we see that as a way to, there's such great content. I mean, Filament's been a part of Games for Change forever. We know all the independents who are making great games. So we really saw it as another opportunity to bring in more revenue to make more IP was through that model.
And now with virtual reality, I understand that has opened up some unusual sources of funding.
It's so unusual, and I feel like, so the VR equipment providers they are all interested in education, and they believe in the mission, and they're excited by the mission. But they need good, high-quality content, and a lot of these providers are making strategic investments in partners like us and others here to develop content to kind of go after the education market. Each hardware provider has their own little hustle going on and their own kind of conditions about kind of who owns the IP and what our responsibilities are to bring it to market and what's theirs. But that's been, for us, a huge boon. We're excited that these partners have been kind of invested in us and we're kind of going into this together with them.
Now, Mike, I know you have an unusual partnership model. You work with funders. Can you explain what that's about?
All of our projects are done as multi-stakeholder partnerships where we co-fund with a philanthropic organization or an impact investor who may be a philanthropist, a family office, who was interested in recycling that capital, not typically looking for risk-adjusted market return, although our equity investors think we'll achieve that in the long term. And by sharing risk, we get more projects going, and we're able to keep the pipeline rich. It also allows us to take advantage of those organizations' distribution channels, their brand credibility. So they range from folks like Smithsonian, Sesame Workshop. We've done stuff with many of the government agencies, but large family offices as well, who are looking at media for impact, and some of them being funders who had done that in the documentary or film space and now saying, what can interactive entertainment in this medium do for impact as well?
Great. Now, turning to some of the younger companies on the left-hand side of the panel, you're finding funding in a different place, which is actually very encouraging. We're thinking about the investment that's going into the ed tech space. And I know each of you are finding different types of sources. We have VC funding, and who's receiving VC funding? You are, both of you are. Can you explain a little bit about the enthusiasm that you're seeing from that sector, and what are some of the challenges about receiving money from VCs?
Well, so we have raised close to 10 million.
I'm sorry, you said 10 million you've raised?
Yeah, 10 million. From US-based investors, also Mexico, Brazil, Spain, and El Salvador. There's a lot of interest from non-US-based investors on funding companies that can produce low-cost and high-quality content to be sold here in the US, States. In the United States. And of course, I mean, the opportunity globally, it is a really interesting opportunity as well.
Great. Devin, you have some?
Yeah. So we've done a couple rounds. We got some angels, basically, about 1.5 years ago. We took time to find the right people, honestly. Like, I think that Classcraft came out of my brother's classroom, so he taught for 10 years, and I was working as a creative director and could have really kind of done any kind of industry, and so for us, like, we met a lot of people that are like, we're gonna stick this in Starbucks and make $1 gazillion, and we're like, cool, like, not with us, you aren't, like, let's get the hell out of here. So it took a while to find people, but I think that that energy was really well spent. Like, we have amazing investors, and they've really kind of shown up, and we're like hooking things up and helping us sort of navigate certain challenges. We just closed around like 6 weeks ago, so it's not public yet, but it will be in the next month. And again, like, just people get it, and
that's great.
Like, yeah, so we got really lucky, and I think that like myself, I was kind of reticent or defensive, I think, just like I lose control of my thing, and blah, 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 and it's like, we're the experts in what we're doing, even though what we're doing is new.
So you're about selecting the right investors who are going to give you the freedom to
Yeah, I mean, they show up and they're like, have you thought about X, Y, and Z? Or like, you know, like, I don't know, they're fighting on our behalf, and everybody's interests are aligned. And so I think that it makes a big difference. And yeah, like the person that is coming on our board, essentially, his wife was a special ed teacher for 25 years. And like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just some stuff in there that's like, okay, like, we know where we're going. And for us, then we get really excited about it because we know that, like, ultimately, if you're trying to build something at scale, you've got to get your users aligned, which are, for us, kids. Then you got to get, like, we serve them first, then we serve teachers, then we serve administrators. So if all those guys are good, that's good. We got to get all our staff aligned and get excited about what we're doing, and then you got to get investors aligned. And if you get all those people aligned, you have momentum to actually start doing something. So it helps to find people that are naturally predisposed to be going where you're going.
Shelley, now you're not taking money from VCs, but you have personal investors, right?
Right.
Individual
Triseum
investors.
is funded by private investors, and we have a unique partnership with Texas A&M that allows for the ideation and concepts to come out of the live lab there at Texas A&M, which is a group that creates games or ideas for games, and we license an IP or an idea from them and fully develop it into something.
So you're licensing the IP?
We are.
That's interesting.
We hope in the future to have our own IPs, but right now we think the best way to move forward is by licensing the IPs from the university. The university has great advantages because we can do the research there first to make sure that there's a need and that there is a good idea at how to fill that need in game-based learning.
Great, great. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about to-market strategies. Again, we have a diverse array of approaches, from direct-to-consumer to teachers to parents. And I want to ask any of you if you've started your company in one pathway and pivoted to another. So maybe this throws a little bit out to Mike. Have you guys always been a direct-to-consumer? No, you haven't.
No, I mean, so something like GameStar, which was heavily grant subsidized to start with, we had a free version and we had a premium version, and the primary revenue there was from the Ed channel. And in something like GameStar, we also ran learning programs and offered, you know, sort of a higher touch service that was essentially after-school programs and camps, which has been a model that's continuing, and we're expanding on that. You know, with something like Minecraft EDU, that was a software sale, so that was a purchase, but a highly subsidized price off of the consumer price. But as a company, we're really moving toward recouping our capital from the consumer version of the product, and then looking for a way to sustain the product, and more importantly, have more purposeful learning opportunities by building educational pathways around that discipline. So if we make something about the natural world, let's say the ocean, we would do citizen science around the ocean.
Great. Anyone else? Anyone start with one business model and pivoted?
I wouldn't say that we've necessarily pivoted. We are a subscription-based model. We're trying to sell directly to the universities, colleges, and teachers. But we are opening up our games to be sold to individuals. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to have a storefront and direct-to-consumer opportunities. I think our focus will always be on the teachers and the students and selling to get it integrated into the classroom. So,
Jesse, did you?
One thing that's been true for us is that I don't know if I'd say we pivoted so much, but for a long time we've been focused on diversity of products and markets because we're trying to be in it for the long haul, and the markets shift around quite a lot. So we've been doing everything from mobile games to interactive toys to interactive museums and theme parks, working with partners who work with schools, creating things and selling to schools directly. So we're finding that the diversity works well because it helps you weather shifting marketplaces.
With your staff of 180, are you working inside? How do you structure that? Because I would imagine the through line of what your business is that you've got game designers who can think through experiences across different platforms. Or I'm curious, or you have experts in each let's say area of focus.
We have different people who have different expertise in different areas. Some people are a little more specialized. Some people are more general. Some people have a few different specializations. One of our big challenges is figuring out the staffing for each project, but we've really found that one of the advantages of scale is that it gives you the ability to put the right people on the right project at the right time, and in fact it also allows you to change the number of people on a project over time because you can shift people on and off from other projects in a way that when we were smaller we simply couldn't do that. So that's been a real advantage of scale.
Okay, great. And I'm curious, Devin, from your model, I know you've played around, or you're trying to move up, let's say, the chain in terms of getting onboarding, and I'm curious how that works.
Yeah. Selling in a K-12 is hard. Yeah. That's the reality of it. We started off initially trying to sell per student because that seemed to be like what textbooks did. And so that's sort of what people understood. And then we had some teachers in middle school that had 30 students and thought that was great because it was $1 a student, so it was 30 bucks. And then we had some college professors that are like, I have 1,200 students and this is ridiculous. And so, so then we moved to per teacher license. So it's $8 a month, unlimited classes, unlimited students. It comes out to $96 a year. But really what we do is we have a free version of the game. And so what we're trying to do is drive actually free adoption. We use the upsell to teachers as a way to pay for marketing. And then we mapped out all the schools in the US and Canada. So we can see basically where there's usage, and whenever a school lights up, and there's like 4 or 5 schools, then we call the school up, and we're like, you've been seeing some mages running around your halls? And they're like, yeah, what's going on? And then we try to bring them through a sales process. And it's been a whole piece of just trying to figure out how to frame it for administrators in a big way. And I think that there's a lot of attention now being looked at social emotional learning and positive behavior instruction systems, and basically looking at behavior in a school and not sending a kid to the principal to sort of show that that's not appropriate behavior, but how to frame it in a positive way. And so, so we've been having a lot of luck, basically,
Great.
Looking at things that way.
Great. All right, well, I'm going to open up the audience just for a couple of questions. Most of you guys are going to be around for the rest of the couple of days. Going to be around for individual conversations, as well as I mentioned, later in the year, we'll do Google Hangouts with each of the companies, so you can learn more firsthand. So I just want to ask, any questions in the audience? Want to come up to?
Got one in my corner.
Okay, hello. Are we going to the mic, or are we just shouting? Okay, no mic.
Thank you all for your efforts in revitalizing education. But what I'd like to know is, are any of you, including in your vision, the fact that we need to change what we are teaching, steer us away from this outdated curriculum, bring in the new along with the new method?
It's a difficult thing to change what is taught, but I think one of the ways that you can make it happen is by starting to provide the offering even before there's big demand for it, because you have a big chicken and the egg problem. How can schools switch to a new curriculum if there is no offering? And so that is definitely part of what we try and do is to try and take a step ahead. The Happy Atoms thing we showed, for example, we were constantly told by schools and teachers, like this material is way too advanced for these young children. And we'd say, well, yeah, when you teach it wrong, it is, but when you teach it in an accessible way, very young children can handle these science topics very, very early. And so we didn't really let that daunt us. We created it so that, okay, it fits the obvious high school level, but we also made it work at the lower level, so now the tool is there. We can't go and change the system, but by providing the tool, teachers who care to try and make a change now, it's easier for them to try and do it. I think that's the way folks like us can be most helpful.
Great. All right, I think we're going to have to wrap it up now, but I want to thank you all for joining us.